Ladies and gentlemen, SuckItUpUSA.com presents Suck It Up MMA Live. No excuses, no quit. With your hosts, positioned firmly in front of the control board, and out of the red corner, Tom McManus! Across the desk, and out of the blue corner, Larry the Professor Sheely!
Let's get the man back. He can swear all he wants this afternoon. That's for sure. David Avalon, are you there, buddy?
Yes.
Shit, yeah, I'm here.
Shit, yeah. Hell yeah, man.
How you doing, brother?
That's great.
Good.
How you doing, David? Thanks for joining us once again. Now on MMA Live on the Suck It Up Radio Network, so appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, Dave. Like I said, we had a good conversation this morning. We cut you short, and I think your story and your brother's story is just such a good one that I don't want to cut that short. We gave Marco some time a while back, and hearing it from the younger brother's perspective is great because I was a younger brother, and you pay a little dues as a younger brother, don't you, Tom?
I'm the youngest. They used to kick the shit out of me.
So, Dave, very good job this morning, Dave. And what I'd like to do is kind of pick up where we left off, and I would like to actually back up a little bit. And we talked about some of the fights you've had, the fighters you've fought. Who is of the fights you've won, and let's just say in the submission grappling or the BJJ or whatever, of the fights you've won, who would you say is the toughest competitor that you've fought against, Dave?
That is a tough question because I faced a lot of really excellent grapplers. I would tell you, out of the people I faced, the guy that I felt that I was in the most danger in the whole match was with Henner Gracie.
Henner, and that was on their own turf at the academy, right?
What's that?
Was that on their own turf?
Yeah, it was in their own turf. It was in Torrance. It was actually a beautiful setup. Horion Gracie had set up the tournament. It was called the Ultimate Submission Showdown.
Right.
Back in 2003.
Right.
And he had got like a ballroom type. It was like a play, like theater, and they had set up a stage. So it was only like marquee grappling matchups. You had guys like Jeff Monson, Travis Luter, Henner Gracie, Horion Gracie, and myself. So it was a decked out cast.
Gotcha.
So they had set us up. We were there the whole week, and they were feeding us. It was like being treated like Enter the Dragon.
What a great movie.
We had star treatment there, so it was really cool.
That is cool, man.
The one thing that I didn't realize, like, he was so tall. Like, he's a huge guy, I remember, like, it reminded me of going against Minotauro because he has these really long legs, long feet, long limbs.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when you're in this guy's guard, like, things are flying out from everywhere. That, like, I remember, like, the first thing he caught me in was the Kimura, and like.
From what position? From what position?
On his back, completely flat on his back, and he was able to lock up the Kimura without like.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't even exactly know what that means, but that sounds bad at the ball.
I'll show you.
Yeah, show me later.
You know what's funny, David, about Henner and his brother. When I went out, I got my blue belt from Horion at one of his week-long seminars, and I remember getting my blue belt, and I came out in these, the Henner and, what's his brother, Huron?
Huron, yeah.
Yeah, Huron. Yeah, they were there, and they were just little kids, man, and they had yellow belts on, and they're like, 3.5 foot tall. They're looking at me like, oh, we can't wait to get our blue belts. I'm just thinking, you guys just don't know how good you've got it. But then I went back to the academy like 10 years later. They're grown men, and like you say, they're long and tall and lanky and obviously know what they're doing. But no, that's a good story, though, with you fighting him.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long did that fight last, by the way, Dave?
I believe it was like 14, 15 minutes. It was a very gut-wrenching match because I had escaped a couple of really strong submissions. We had traded leg locks. And at the end, there was no time limit matchup, by the way. Like,
right.
No time limit. It was just either first to submission or it was the first to score. Like I believe the total was 12 points.
Okay, I got you. Now, what did you finish with?
I finished with a guard pass.
Okay, so
I
you got
remember, like, he had just put me in a very tight lapel choke, I think. And again, like, I don't train with a gi. He was wearing a gi, but I wasn't. So he had used his own gi to wrap me up in a choke. It was a super tight choke, and I remember I just had to go like crazy, just so like spazzed out. And as soon as I got out, I scored my pass and won the match there. And but the other thing that was amazing, it was that Helio Gracie was in attendance.
Oh, sweet!
Wow.
That's the dad. That's
It
the
was nice to have like the Grand Master, there observing all the matches.
Yeah.
David Avalon is our guest here on MMA Live on the Suck It Up Radio Network. I want to go back to the Fight Club days when it was Avalon Grappling. David, you started with maybe 10 or so students. You even mentioned on the morning show that it was more of like a fight club. Kind of divulge a little bit on that. How you guys would train. Obviously, the matches you would have. Did you travel around? How'd you go from 10 to, gosh, even just getting to 30? And I know you're at 1,000 now, but take us back to those early days when it truly was, in your own words, a fight club.
Yeah. So this is again 1999. We were first students. We were training under an instructor, and then my brother started opening up his own club. His ex-wife at the time, her father was a Taekwondo master. He had his own school, and with his blessing, he was teaching like at 8 o'clock his own little program that my brother started. And for the first month, nobody showed up. He would just go there, and he would just sit there for like 30 minutes and then go home. And then finally, one day, somebody showed up that was crazy enough to go. And he ended up becoming the first student. And from there, that program of Avalon Grappling grew to about, like you said, like 10, 11 students. Interestingly enough, that first guy that showed up still trains with us today.
No kidding.
Sweet.
How awesome is that?
Hey, that's some loyalty that you don't always
that's
see
an
in our
awesome
sport,
story.
huh, David?
Yeah. It's great to have him there. His name's Robert Mallon. He's a police officer.
Sweet.
Super good guy. He's a brown belt under us.
Very nice.
Very amazing guy. But yeah, so he stuck around. But back in those days, like we were focused on fighting. So like the motive behind developing the club really was like people to train with, and we were being trained as fighters, so we were training our guys as fighters.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
And the funny part was we didn't have tatami mats, like the Zebras or the Mencinos. We had puzzle mats.
Oh, the little thin puzzles.
Oh,
The
wow.
little thin blue mats that you would use like kids' playgrounds and stuff.
Sweet.
That was our mat setup, So before training, we would set up all these puzzles, put them together. Afterwards, take them all apart, put them away. And those things are brutal. You're getting slammed, you're getting thrown, beat around.
Plus, they're rough. Rough textured.
Yeah.
You tear your toes and all that, yeah.
Only like a crazy person
Well,
would want to train under those conditions,
And now you have a 10,000 square foot feet of badasses and kids learning and running the whole gamut, man. That's a true success story,
No
David,
question.
for you and your brother, man. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, let me ask you this, Dave.
We were able to get out of there was my brother and I, we were actually promoting shoe fighting tournaments here in Miami. This is before 2000, so like they were technically still allowed to do shoe fighting here.
Mm-hmm.
So we had put a couple of shoe fighting tournaments together. Then they had banned it, and those were then like in the dark ages where UFC was not on cable, not on primetime. So when that happened, like our whole training like switched, because since we couldn't compete like in shoe fighting anymore, the only thing that you could do was grappling.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
That's when my brother and I started becoming more like grapplers, and the training started to focus that way, and we started hosting grappling tournaments. Like Kip Collar from Naga, he had done like one here, I believe it was in like 2001 in Kissimmee, and after he did his, we started doing tournaments with his blessing under the Naga banner, and we were like the first people to really push the grappling circuit down here in South Florida.
Right. I remember I believe you had one in Orlando.
He did one in Orlando too.
Yeah, I took some of my guys to that
one.
one.
A different name, IGC. Yeah.
That's like 2003 or 4, I believe.
Yeah, that was like one of the last tournaments.
Yeah.
Put together, I think.
Now you mentioned shoot fighting. Explain to the listeners here, Dave, exactly what shoot fighting is. What's the difference between that in a grappling tournament versus NHB or no holds barred or MMA, whatever. What is shoot?
Okay, sure thing. So shoot fighting, there's lots of different variations, but the basic idea is that there's limited striking to the head. So sometimes you could do open hand strikes, other times complete no strikes whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
You can do shots to the body, to the legs, anytime you want. And then when you hit the ground, again, depending on the organization, sometimes there's no striking at all, or sometimes it's a striking body down.
Ah, okay.
Submissions are all a go.
Right.
So, it's, for the most part, the way they were done here, it was just nothing to the head, but anything below the neck was a go. And you could punch, you could knee, no elbows, though.
Okay, now you mentioned open hand. That's like you can flat out bitch slap somebody? Is that?
Yeah,
that would piss me off.
Official strike with a bitch slap. Immediately by a double leg takedown.
That's like the old Hickson Gracie on the beach type strike, right? Just hit him on the ear.
Kapow. Jeez.
That's great.
I remember, my first shoot fight, I was going up against a guy, and they had hyped him up to me that he was like a Muay Thai striker, excellent striker. And I had just turned 18 the day before the fight, and very limited striking experience. I had just graduated high school. I'm like, man, I don't want to get knocked out, because in that particular shoot fight, you could kick to the head. So I was like, I don't want to eat a head kick, so I'm just going to bitch slap him and shoot right in, bring this fight to the ground. So that was my first experience with shoot fighting. He turns out he was a jiu-jitsu purple belt, very good on the ground, went to like a double overtime. It was an awesome match.
How fun.
David, when you look at wrestling, grappling, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is the one that will last the test of time? Are all three, or is there one over the rest? As we'll look at this sport and how it evolves throughout the course of time, which one will stay?
I believe they're all going to stay. They all play a role. The way, in my system of fighting, which we call freestyle fighting, we separate it really by three main elements. There's striking, there's wrestling, and then there's jiu-jitsu or grappling. And the striking battles, obviously, is any punches, kicks, knees, elbows you throw. And that's always going to be there in some form. Wrestling, we call any form of bringing the opponent to the ground and controlling them, or defending against being thrown. And then the grappling is once you're on the ground, knowing your submission holds, your chokes, your arm locks, and all that. Mm-hmm. So those are always going to be there, because those are, they're the tools you have to fight. Now, which one is going to be the most dominant? That's always changing. We've seen the guard change throughout the years. In the beginning, early UFC's jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, was the controlling art. Royce Gracie paved the way with it. Then wrestling had taken over, and you had the ground and pounders coming through. And then you had the kickboxers knocking people out and sprawling, brawling. And it's always changing. Right now, it's still striking dominant for the most part. People are doing a lot of sprawl and brawl these days.
Yeah, these guys are getting harder and harder to take down, and if that's your only side of the game is on the ground, then you're having a little troubles.
Is that because of the athleticism? That's because their reaction time when you shoot, they can react quick enough, and they're big enough, and they're fast enough, and they're strong enough to stop it. Is that why?
What do you think, David?
Yeah, let's take a look at a guy like John Jones, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's a superb wrestler, top caliber wrestler, and he's got great striking. He uses very unorthodox strikes. So anybody who's going to try to take down a guy like John Jones is going to have a hell of a time, because you have to close that gap with that reach advantage he has. He's got I think they said 86.5 inch reach.
It's
crazy.
Still amazing.
Over a foot than most people. And then if you're going to have to shoot in on him, you're going to see it from a mile away. And it's very hard to shoot on somebody blindly with no setup. If you're just standing toe to toe with somebody, and you just go to shoot, it's all reaction time. And like you said, the people here now, they're a lot more athletic. They can see things and they can prepare for it. It's easy to sprawl. You know, it's a lot easier to sprawl than it is to shoot. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in that sense, it's going to be harder for the ground guys to bring the fight to the ground. You know, with these caliber of athletes. But again, it's not just a striker you're facing. You're facing a guy who's a wrestler and a striker.
Yeah.
Right. So they're playing together. So really, I think like if you're a grappler and you want to try to bring this fight to the ground, you're going to have to be able to work more body lock type takedowns, clinches, and be able to use the fence more to defend people. Because out from the distance, just like if your game plan is just like to shoot, it's going to be a rough night for you. You know.
Exactly.
And you use a lot of energy when you're shooting, easy to get sprawled, and nowadays there's so many counters. Like when you get shot in, even like submission-wise, getting caught with guillotines, femoras, all sorts of things. So it's like there's a lot of danger going into just shooting.
No question about it. Now, David, one thing that we didn't mention this morning that if I were in your shoes, would be one of I would think your finer accomplishments, and that's getting into the ADCC World Championships a few times. Is that would you consider that one of the highlights of your personal career, or in the top 5? And if just kind of share with us what that meant to you and what it means to be an ADCC fighter, an Abu Dhabi fighter.
Well, for grappling, to me, that's the pinnacle of the sport. So it's absolutely one of the things that I'm very proud of. Ever since I learned that there was an Abu Dhabi combat club, that's all I wanted to be in. And I learned about it, I think, in like 2002. And my goal since then, as far as the grappling career, was to get in there and win it. You know, so my first entry was in 2005. I got to compete with big names like Damian Maia, Ronaldo Jacare. Had both exciting matches with them.
And that's an invitation, or you earn your way in? How did you get into it the first go-round?
Oh, that's another interesting story. Because at the time, I remember our gym, like you guys have alluded before, it was small, it was a fight club, and it wasn't really doing well at first. We were eating a huge loss when we opened up.
Right.
And it came to a point that we were massively in debt, and we were going to have to close down. So it was like around 2004. I ended up graduating, and I was fortunate enough that I found a job right away that was very good pay as a nuclear operator.
Right.
So I ended up working full time, and pretty much took me out of competition because I couldn't really train the way I needed to compete. So the whole time I was just lifting weights and like crossing my fingers like I would get an invite. And it came to a point that I was like 2 months away from the competition. I hadn't got a call for the invite yet. I didn't do the trials because I couldn't go. So I took it on faith that I said, you know what, I'm going to have to quit my job and I'll start training full time and just expect to be invited. So the day that I quit, I got in my car, started driving off, and then I got the invite. I got a phone call right there, and they invited me to the tournament.
Get out,
Wow.
man. Talk about a leap of faith coming in right away. That's awesome, dude.
No question.
Yeah. I'm not a religious man, but if there was a sign, that was it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So you've been what?
So,
You've been 3 times, David?
I've been fortunate enough that based on my credentials and my performances that they've invited me every time since, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be able to compete, at the top level.
Now, again, share with some of the listeners about, Abu Dhabi, what that is, what it means, where it is, who sets it up. I mean, there's some big money people over there, right, Dave?
Absolutely. You're talking about Sheikh Tahoon, who, he's one of the princes of Abu Dhabi. He took a fancy to jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts by watching the UFCs and stuff like that. And he ended up bringing people over, and he developed this club, which is, ADCC stands for Abu Dhabi Combat Club. And it was first for him and for his friends that they started training together, and they were getting like black belts and stuff and flying them over there to help teach them. And then he made it like a youth program where he would take kids from the street and he would train them in jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. And then in 1998, he decided that he wanted to see like an exhibition of the best athletes of grappling over the world. and he started bringing people in to do tournaments. So, and even like in the jiu-jitsu world and in grappling and sport grappling, generally there's not a lot of pay in it. Like for example, like one of the biggest tournaments that's sanctioned by like the IBJJF, which is like the FILA, if you will, for jiu-jitsu. They do the mundials, and you don't get paid to win the mundials.
Right.
It's just the honor of doing it. In Abu Dhabi, they have prizes up to $40,000 for winning first place. So it's very easy to catch everybody's attention, when you have those big prizes. So they were getting a lot of famous black belt champions, MMA fighters like Tito Ortiz, Ricardo Arona, entering these tournaments early in. So, like getting in there at first, was amazing because they were actually holding these in Abu Dhabi. So you were in the palace, and
Right.
So it was an amazing experience for those guys.
You
who
grapple
were
with
able to get in there.
You grappled with Tito one year, didn't you?
What's that?
Did I see you grappling with Tito at one point, or did you not fight
I've
Tito?
never competed against Tito. He
Right.
has done a seminar at our school once.
Okay, maybe that's.
When he was the reigning UFC champion, which was awesome to happen.
Wow.
He showed some really cool techniques.
Sweet. One more thing you mentioned about the something that's interesting in the BJJ world that I would equate similar to the ADCC is Higan Machado and Hillian Gracie on an international level have combined with the red belts over in Brazil. Some of the predominant red belts, there aren't that many. And what they're doing, Dave, it's the World BJJ organization. They are pretty much making it a professional circuit, trying to pull the politics out of the BJJ world, which there are a lot of, and making it kind of a unified body, consolidating a couple of the confederations over there now. So that's making some big waves on the world scene, and it's just now hitting the U.S., so keep your eyes open for that one.
Yeah.
I was talking to Higan Machado yesterday, as a matter of fact, and pretty interesting development, so keep your eyes open, Dave.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be great. I mean,
Yeah, man.
it'd be great for all these people. We have so many talented athletes that, people can be watching and learning from and getting inspired to do more from.
Hey, David, as we wrap up with you, talk about your website. And I know you got videos on there and techniques about grappling, MMA, teaching, but I want to hear about your philosophy, your happiness, what you have to say about that. Talk about David Avalon and your beliefs in how to be in this world.
Okay, well, in my website, which is www.freemmagift.com, I have an email list that I post videos on, and like you were saying, I talk about philosophy, diet, everything in general related to martial arts and just living your life in general. For myself, I believe more important than the physical body is your mind and your mindset. Too much like nowadays, like since we think we know so much with science and like we're trying to understand everything from a physical standpoint, especially like when we talk about like modern medicine and whatnot, we put too much importance into like physical things, and we don't take the time to actually like analyze things just from like a mental or like spiritual level, if you will. Like one of the things I always tell like my competitors is that focus more on your mental preparation than your physical, because it's very easy like to get yourself in great shape physically. You go to the gym, lift weights, you run. That's easy. Anybody can do that. Preparing yourself for combat mentally is extremely challenging.
Right.
It's a very stressful event to go through, and we have a lot of misconceptions of what the outcome of combat is supposed to be. Like most people in a competition, they think the goal is to win. And when you focus on winning, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself because you don't actually control the outcome of a battle. You can do your best, but you can't guarantee a victory.
Right.
It doesn't matter how good you are, how much of an advantage you have. The guy who chooses who wins is not you. It's the referee and it's the judges. And you can win. You could technically win by knocking somebody out, but then they could disqualify you. There's lots of things that can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on something that you can't control is always going to put stress on your body and stress on your mind, and that makes it a lot harder to compete. I've seen people who are monsters in the school that they're just amazing guys, but then when you put them out on the tournament mats, they collapse just from stress.
Right.
They fatigue so fast. And they're like, man, I do like 20 minutes live straight to the gym, no problem. I
Yep.
go like 3 minutes in the tournament, I'm dead.
Adrenaline dump, huh?
That's the stress, So what I always tell people, just focus on doing your best. 'Cause that's the only thing you can truly control in this life.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I just want to interject too. Not dwelling on the past. You can't change the past, but you can learn from the past. Whether it was good for you or bad for you or a little bit of a combination. But you can't. I tell people all the time, I sleep like a baby. Larry saw me fall asleep in
incredible.
15 seconds?
Max.
I was like, guys, I got to
Max.
take just a quick cat nap.
That's freaking talent.
I was
man.
gone in 10 minutes. I came back, boom, done. I was ready to go. But I even at night, I have no problem laying down and saying to myself, look, I've done all I can do today. I've done my best. I've tried my best, and I've worked my butt off. And you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. Me staying up, worrying about this, worrying about that doesn't do anybody any good. A lot easier said than done. I think being physically fit helps me with that because that always helps when I'm working out. But, man, I wish people, you gentlemen in MMA throughout the world, other athletes as well, like I'm a former athlete. We get it, but I want day-to-day, I want everyday people to get that. Man, if you work on yourself, if you go after dreams and you work at it and you don't give up and you keep yourself well diversified and you keep yourself in good shape and you eat well, you can find happiness, you can find inner peace, and you can get past whatever has been bogging you down. And I that's why I love talking to guys like you, because you live the suck it up way of life every single day. You walk the walk and you talk the talk. It's great.
No, everything you said there, 100% absolutely correct. Because what we talk about in the morning about how it's so important to get young children and kids into sports activities. And it's not because the sport itself. Look, when I do mixed martial arts, it's really meaningless, right? Punching and kicking people, that's just something, to keep your mind diverted. But what you learn by training in the mixed martial arts is so much more important, because those lessons transcend all boundaries and they will cross over to every aspect of your life.
No question.
So even if you're not training MMA, if you're doing football, basketball, whatever, every organized sport,
Yep.
you see success principles, setting goals, preparing yourself for events, dealing with conflicts and stress resolution, working with a team. And this works in every avenue of your life, not just the thing. So being a black belt is part of that. You're learning how to use all these principles and apply it to every single point of your life.
Yeah.
Amen.
Hey, sports
Amen,
is
brother.
business is life.
Yep.
Everything you go through as an athlete, you go through in business, you go through in life, and you live it, Dave, and that's a fantastic thing, man. Big time.
Very good. And then one last thing before we break up here, Dave. I know you and Marcos not only train your mind for the physical. You guys, your business mind is just incredible. I know some of the things you guys do and some of the things you read. Hats off to you. I think a lot of people condition themselves to poverty. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I know you guys are living it. I know Lloyd Irvin has been a tremendous blessing in Marcos and your life. He helped me a bunch, and he's helping a lot of guys kind of turn their mindset, not only in being great fighters, but also being great people. I know you and Marcos are doing the same thing. Great people, but also being successful at the cash register as well, or at the bank. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think people think, oh, these guys are selling out because they're making money. No, they're making money because they're doing the right things for the people, for the kids, for everyone, making people better people. And I think the more people like you and Marcos and Lloyd that come in touch with these kids, the better off they will be. And again, there's nothing wrong with making money. It's just not letting it dominate you and not hosing people in the process. So hats off to you and Marcos. Very proud of you guys, and glad to keep following you.
Thank you. And it's true what you're saying. A lot of people, they sort of villainize being successful in the business world. If you just look at movies, every billionaire tycoon in a movie is a bad guy.
He's a bad guy, right?
We're sort of conditioned with that, making money is bad. Like you said, making money you're selling out.
Yeah.
And it's not the case at all.
You look on CNN, apparently the rich guys are bad guys now too. But that's a whole political issue.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yow! There's all right.
But I mean, like, if you can, you should be able to do what you love and be able to enjoy every facet of your life.
Yep.
Absolutely, Dave.
With what you do, you shouldn't have to slave away at something that you can't stand doing it, but you're doing it just like an ends like to a means. You know, you should be able to find your passion, whatever it is, and make it into a successful business where you are helping people. You're not like scamming people. And I know like what I do with a mixed martial arts helps people, and that's why it's growing. You know, if I was in the business of shaming people, I could make a quick buck, but not in the long run. You know, people figure it out and then they leave.
Right.
Yep.
You know, but if you have a staying power, if you're actually passing your passion and bringing it to somebody else and to enrich their lives, they're going to want to continue training with you, and they're going to be bringing their friends along also.
Yeah.
And that's how this thing grows.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, we all got to work on ourselves. It's a continuous thing. You know, we all got to take our experiences and learn from them and work on ourselves. And tell you, health and fitness, it's the key to one of the keys of happiness. There's no doubt about that. David Avalon, man, you're an inspiration. Great to have you on the show, buddy.
Thank you. If I could just say just one more real quick thing, like one of the things that I've been loving to do now on my website is I've been doing webinars where I'm actually interacting with people over the internet. They're all free, and it's been like one of the coolest things I've ever done. I just had like a little idea, like it'd be cool if I taught techniques over the internet and let people ask me questions live.
Yeah, that is cool. Give the site out again, Dave.
Yeah, so that's www.freemmagift.com. And I've been doing those webinars about once a month now, and they've been picking up a lot of steam. And they're all free. You just have to join the email list there, and you'll get access to them all.
Fantastic stuff, buddy. You have yourself a great day. It's been an honor having you on MMA Live here on the Suck It Up Radio Network, and we hope to do it again.
Thank you, guys.
Great stuff. Yeah,
Thanks,
beautiful.
Dave.
Thanks, Dave. That was
buddy.
awesome.
This has been a production of SuckItUpUSA.com and EIGProductions.com. Heard exclusively on the Suck It Up Radio Network.